just feels cold. I don't know what it is. The chill that's just bearing down on me right now. I know this was the same coat that I wore with the Philadelphia Phillies in San Diego, and maybe last time I wore this, it was a team jettisoned into the World Series. So maybe without having to break this stupid thing back out again, maybe this will be enough to propel us into a 5 for 5, meaning like sweep the board night. Doing okay so far, so we appreciate you continuing to roll with us here on this 5 for 5, 5 in 5 technically. And yes, we appreciate you joining us on the Odd Shopper channel. Hit the thumbs up button, subscribe. You know the drill. It's the same thing we've been asking you day in and day out. And if you're new, welcome. We're the fastest growing sports betting community across the YouTube platform for a reason, because of great people that have been hitting the subscribe button routinely. So jump in. Now, this is not one of the 5, but we always wet your beak, as we like to say in the beginning of these videos, for the NBA that we do Monday through Friday, for the 5 and 5 we do in the NFL, for big games Monday, Thursday, and then the Sunday slate. We always wet your beak because we have other things we need to tell you about, right? Like there's a great offer at BetMGM I'm going to tell you more about. Oh, and by the way, there is this cool thing that we're doing with the Discord that kind of want to let you know about that. So, all of that said, let's clear the board. Let's take a second. Let's get into that game. Dive right into it, because, you know, this is going to be an interesting one with the Bears, especially. Everybody's down on them, and I am as well. Let's go. 5 in 5 starts. Now the clock's already running. What are you doing? The clock's already running. First half, -4.5. Now we'll get to this coming up, because on the Discord earlier in the week, this was at plus money. I gave it out. I still like it, even though I just want to let you know it's now at -110. This was earlier at plus. I'll show you what it was earlier, but neither here nor there for this particular play, because the Bears are awful in the first half. They're 0-6 against the spread in the first half this season. That's not good, in case you were wondering by any means. So the Chicago Bears still struggle. They are going to struggle against a team that runs the football with not one but two guys exceptionally well. And as we know, Belichick's going to do whatever he can to take the passing game, I think, away, more so than just try and take David Montgomery out. It'll just be easier to focus on running backs once you remove the Justin Fields threat, or maybe just ability to throw, which opens up our second play. And that's Justin Fields over 42.5 rushing yards. Now, I was tempted to go over both rushing and passing here for Fields. But I think when you look at it, 1-7 straight up on the road in his career. The only win came week 5 last year when the Raiders were dealing with all the Gruden stuff that was happening. He's 0-7 straight up on the road. He's also bad at night, 0-5 straight up at night, with a TD ratio of 5-5. We also know that Belichick, look, even if Belichick takes Montgomery away, he takes Mooney away, it doesn't matter. Because the one thing that Justin Fields will be able to do against New England will be run the football. So I think that's the biggest play here, is that Fields he's not going to get benched. He could throw 3 picks in the first half. He won't get benched. The biggest thing we want right now is Fields running, holding on to the football.
Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Monday morning, Monday Night Football, barn burner edition. Chicago Bears, New England Patriots. We're here to talk about it, baby. We've got a lot to get into today. Showdown strategy show right here on the Stokastic YouTube channel. Woo. All right. Well, I'm Dave Loughran at Loughran_D on Twitter, LOUGHY_D. Hit your boy up. While you're at it, follow Matt Gajewski at Matt_Gajewski. It's just the two of us today breaking this one down. Alex Brown, usually with us. You know him as AB, former DN for the Chicago Bears. My guess is, well, the Chicago Bears play tonight. Unfortunate for him, but he's probably doing some coverage out there. And I guess I don't know if he's going to New England. I don't know if he has to go to Chicago for the post-game show. That's probably more likely. Nevertheless, Matt, you and me, man, what's going on?
Yeah, excited for my Chicago Bears. I guess I'm a Chicago Bears fan still to this day. So I'm excited to see them play. They're huge underdogs here, which doesn't exactly bode well for their potential success. But we actually have a total at 40 points. It's not, our 37, 38 totals we've been doing for a lot of these games this year. So maybe we see some points. We also might see the return of Mac Jones, which is exciting for the Patriots. Hopefully they can put some points on the board. But as always, I'm excited to just talk ball, man.
Yeah, me too, dude. And yesterday was fun. Got back on track betting for sure. I will tell you this much though. The one spot that beat me up, like I would have had a huge betting day. So real heavy on the Raiders. Just felt like a spot where they would come in and smash. First half did not look good. Then they pulled away with it. But and of course the under on the Broncos, always bet the under on the Broncos. They should start putting these totals at like 28 points, Matt. They got the Jaguars next week in London. I don't know how they're going to score points on either side.
That's repulsive.
It is.
Like some of these NFL games are repulsive.
It's so bad. But what I was going to say, the one game that crushed me, and I've been down on this team recently, but I look at it and I see the Bucks at halftime, right? Down 7-0. They're -2.5. I go, there's no way they lose this game. Like, you win by a field goal. You hold the Panthers to no more points. It's done. I was real confident. 3-unit bet. Just like, okay, this is it. This is easy. How could I have gotten so lucky? Now, that didn't work out. They scored 3 points. They lost 21-3. Horrible performance. But I'm looking at it like their offensive line is not good right now. Brady's not good. But Mike Evans drops that easy, surefire touchdown in the first half. And I go, okay, so they can still, it just doesn't look good. And then they had Leonard Fournette 3rd and 4th down, running it for no gain. Like, just they'll get on the board. This game only needs to be 10-7. That team, they're in shambles. The Packers are in shambles. It's a real changing of the guard happening in the NFL, or so it appears so after 7 weeks.
Yeah, it's hard to say you could see this coming. For the Packers, it's kind of been, I live up in Milwaukee. There's a lot of talk about the draft picks recently for this team, and they've kind of bungled multiple drafts. I think you could have seen this coming all the way back to the Jordan Love draft. They forego any actual competent player. They draft Jordan Love in the second round. They run it back with A.J. Dillon, a guy that they barely even played yesterday. They drafted Josiah DeGuara in the 3rd. He doesn't play for this team, so they essentially wasted that entire draft. This year, they draft an off-ball linebacker in the 1st round and a defensive lineman, and then decide to trade up. And instead of getting one of the premier top 6 receivers who are actually doing something, they waste those picks in the 1st round when they had the capital to go up and get somebody. They had 2 firsts. You could have easily went up and got a stud, but instead you decided to take an off-ball linebacker, and then you draft Christian Watson, who essentially played for a glorified triple option offense in college and can't get on the field because of health. So you end up having to start Amari Rodgers, who's a pick from a different draft. I believe he came out the year as Amon-Ra St. Brown. Essentially, a really low productivity college receiver for Clemson coming off an ACL tear. I don't know what this Packers regime is doing. And finally, you're seeing all of this culminate in a season where they've struggled. They've been able to mask all of those deficiencies with just Aaron Rodgers for the last couple of years. But now without Devontae Adams, he doesn't have anything to throw the ball to. It is disgusting watching Packer games.
Romeo Doubs dropped two third and short, a 4th and short, easy conversions. I'm not saying Rodgers has been great, but Man, does that loss of Devontae Adams loom large or what?
I mean, Amari Rodgers at one point in yesterday's game had the same amount of fumbles, career fumbles, as career receptions.
Is that right?
Yeah, 5 fumbles, 5 catches. He eventually caught another pass and put himself over that, but
Matt, that can't be right.
It was.
How many were they like return fumbles too? I'm
Yeah.
assuming. Yeah. Okay.
Because he can't catch the ball, and they decide to use him on returns unbelievably. I don't know. Living up here, it's like watching regimes make those bad decisions. And I'm not saying I should be a GM by any means, far from it, but it's like you can go into those drafts and be like, all right, they shouldn't have picked Jordan Love. Maybe AJ Dillon wasn't the best pick here. Second round grinder, 2 nose back that they can't even use on third down, and they won't use over Aaron Jones now. And just Josiah DeGuara in the third. Yeah, I don't know. This year, off-ball linebacker in the first when you've got, I mean, we could run down the list of receivers, but at the time where the Packers maybe could have got someone, you could have gotten Burks, Dotson. I would rather have them than an off-ball linebacker. And if you were really aggressive and trying to go for it this year, you just would have probably bundled those 2 first-rounders, went up, got Olave, got Garrett Wilson, whoever your receiver of choice was. But they played scared, and it's still showing up in the box scores for Green Bay. And I mean, there's a bunch of teams like this. Denver's playing scared. A bunch of these teams are. And it's kind of good to see like people finally get punished for their bad decisions.
No doubt. How bad was that game from the Chargers too, though? I mean, they're 5.5-point favorites, 5.5, depending on where you're looking. They got smoked by the Seahawks. I mean, look, I'm not saying the Seahawks are bad. I think I will say as much as people shit on Pete Carroll, and we've all done the same, I would like to at least credit him for taking a team that was expected to be bad from top to bottom and piecemealing together a pretty decent squad that's competing every single week. But they come in, they drop 30 plus on the Chargers in LA. Not to say there's real home field advantage there, but you know what I'm saying? That was insane that the Chargers, I mean, they got embarrassed in that game.
Yeah, they did. And the Seattle's a really nice surprise this year. And I know you and Mike both being from Philly, and the Eagles didn't even play, and you guys are hard to talk to about this because I don't know, you're always just like, it's gonna, the wheels are gonna fall off at some point. I feel like all Philly fans think.
I'm a lot more pessimistic than Mike, for sure. Mike, we came on this morning before the show started, and he's like, yo, how about the Phils? And I said, yeah, we're gonna get swept. So I mean, I definitely have some pessimism maybe, but look, it's just, Matt, I didn't mean to cut you off. All it is me preparing myself for the inevitable. I'll root as hard for them as anybody else. I get just as excited when we win, but I try to temper expectations so the letdown isn't as bad. You know what I mean? That's all.
Yeah. To me, they're kind of like the polar opposite of the Packers. And I'm not a Philly fan by any means, but I think they're a regime that has perennially taken a solid approach to like team building and just putting shots on goal. A lot of people are going to like disparage the Jalen Reagor pick. And I mean, fine, but I mean, they're taking shots on goal at high value players. So I mean, like drafting Jalen Reagor, sometimes those guys are going to bust, but they come right back, go for Devontae Smith, trade for AJ Brown. And you could probably say the same thing about Wentz. You know, they go for it. They get the high value quarterback, doesn't work out, trade him, and they got an amazing return. And then they followed up with Hurts, a guy who a lot of people thought was widely overdrafted. But you know, shots on goal, if you're drafting these high value positions at the top, eventually over time, as long as your process isn't completely flawed, which it isn't in Philly, you're going to end up with these all-star teams. And they've done that. A quarterback drafted outside the first round on an amazing contract you can actually afford and go out and get AJ Brown and these other guys. It's cool to see. I don't know if they actually win the Super Bowl, but at least they're playing really well right now. And it's awesome to see because they've done it the right way.
Yeah, no doubt. First round exit. No, you're right. You're right, though. You're right. It's been a crazy week. Last thing I want to talk about, and by the way, happy to have you guys with us. We love talking football. It goes too quick. I mean, we're nearing the midway point of the season, so let's, no matter how bad the game, try and relish in all of this and cherish these games that we have, even if it's the Bears at Patriots on Monday Night Football. Hit that thumbs up too if you haven't done so yet. Take a single second out of your morning and atone for your sins. Have you not? Click that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We're at almost 82,000. So appreciate all you guys that have supported us all year. And remember, NBA Strategy Show comes up immediately after this at 10 a.m. So we got you covered. All right. So last thing I wanted to talk about is just from yesterday, and then we'll get into everything for this game. Look, not the most exciting game, so at this point we'll do what we can. But how about the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs, you lose Tyreek Hill, doesn't matter. They come in there and they rout the Niners at home, who just got Christian McCaffrey. There have been a couple spots where you look at the Chiefs this year and you go, they are not, maybe they will struggle. Yesterday was just a full out bludgeoning on the road. This team is so good.
Yeah, they're awesome, man. I respect that 49ers defense a lot.
Me too.
For Mahomes to just come in there with, it's not exactly like a ragtag receiver group, but it's kind of patchwork receiver group. You have middling starter and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, more of a role player. Juju, who's been in descent in terms of his career trajectory for the last few years. And of course, you have Kelsey to hold it all together. But I mean, they're relying on like basically a UDFA level running back and Pacheco to handle more work now. Really late draft pick and a guy who was a terrible producer in college. He's just burst on the scene in this offense. CEH still scoring touchdowns ridiculously. He's got the craziest touchdown rate in the NFL, but they're just humming on offense, man. I'm excited for hopefully the eventual rematch of Buffalo versus KC. Those games are always electric.
Yeah, and meanwhile, you talk about keeps humming. Unsustainable New York Giants, another win. They're 7-0 in the second half of games this year. 7-0, outscoring teams by they're like plus 55 in the second half. It's incredible. So yeah, Fidel said, "Whoa, Laffy, relax. Niners banged up still badly." And I've talked about it all year, or I've talked about it the past couple of weeks. I get it. They still coughed up 40 plus. I mean, it doesn't mean the Chiefs aren't really good. So, all right, let's get into
They got
this
back
one.
Trent Williams. It was the healthiest they've been in a long time.
Yeah, and they had Bosa back, right? Bosa was back.
They're not as hurt as you think.
No, like they were without, I think Armstead was out, right? Mosley's on the IR. They got some injuries, but
so it's week 8,
all
week 7
teams
in
have
the NFL.
all teams have injuries.
Right.
Yeah. Like if you go in week 7 healthy, which amazingly the Bears don't have a single player on the injury report tonight, doesn't matter. You're in very good shape, but most teams are going to go into these and they're not going to be healthy. RGR2399 says, "I'll be at this game. Hopefully weather's not too bad." Nice, man. Should be fun if you're a Patriots fan. Also, change that name, man. Let me speak to you as if you're a human, not a robot. All right, let's get into it. Chicago Bears on the road, 8.5-point dogs, 16-point implied total. 16 points, Matt. Not as bad as the Panthers' 12.75 yesterday. It was the Bucs who ended up scoring 3. But last week, at least we saw one thing. At least we saw this. And that was the fact that against Washington, Thursday Night Football, so the Bears haven't played in a week and a half, on 27 attempts, which was by far the most he's attempted all season long, Justin Fields targeted Darnell Mooney on 12 of them, over 44% target share. Didn't always work out at all, but that shows that if Fields is going to throw more, we know exactly where that volume is going to go to.
Yeah, we tentatively had that expectation, but you and I have talked about the Bears a couple times now, and it was always an unknown. The Bears haven't thrown a lot. All right. Are they actually going to target Mooney at that high rate? Because he had a solid target share on those limited opportunities, but the question was, would it persist over a larger share? And it has, which is awesome for Mooney. The one thing I wish the Bears offense would do is kind of play like a 49ers style scheme. And this is saying a lot because the 49ers have Kyle Shanahan, but why don't they just try to mask Justin Fields for now until the team gets better? Run all these like little underneath things, try to get the ball out of his hands fast in creative ways. And they just might not have an offensive play caller capable of doing that. But I really wish they would do that. The Bears offensive line has played better than normal, but Justin Fields, he's holding onto the ball at one of the highest rates in the NFL and taking a lot of sacks for it, which is, I mean, sacks are huge negative plays in terms of your win probability and just keeping your game script on schedule in terms of like second and long, third and longs. It's been a huge issue for them. If they are throwing the ball more, which as 8.5-point underdogs here, I think you have to look at Fields right away, just more volume for him. And then Mooney's the primary beneficiary. So I ran optimals this morning. You're getting a lot of 5-1s. When you do get Bears, it's a lot of the kicker, a lot of Mooney and Fields on FanDuel. So it's not pretty for the Bears.
It's not. And yeah, we did say last week that you can't, we don't expect Fields to be chucking it 40 times a game, but the 19 attempts, it's just unsustainable. You can't do that. And you come into this game as an 8.5-point dog. Granted, the real strength of this defense for the Patriots is their pass defense. I don't want to pretend that it isn't, but I don't know, Matt. It feels difficult to imagine this team again. Like it feels tough to think that Fields isn't going to throw again today, at least 24 or 27 times. I simply don't know how. Let me ask you this. Let me back up for a second and ask you this. I think this will help us. So if this game is close, how does it stay close for Chicago?
They get the opening kickoff and score, and then can run the ball.
Exactly. I mean, that's pretty much it, right? And they could have done that against Washington in week 6. They had 2 goal line opportunities and in consecutive drives, or 2 of 3 drives. And they came up with no points on both of them?
That's unacceptable. You just flat out can't do that. And they can't take negative plays. That's the other thing. Fields might not throw a lot of interceptions, but he takes a ton of sacks. He took 5 sacks last week.
Again. And they can't protect him, but you have to also put some of the blame on you have to lay some of the blame on Fields for holding on to the ball so long and not having awareness in the pocket.
For sure. He holds on to it at one of the longest rates in the NFL behind that offensive line.
Let's talk about the pass catching options. Then we can get into these running backs, which is kind of interesting. Khalil Herbert looked really good to start last week's game and then got phased out entirely. He had a 64-yard run or 63-yard run. And then it was like, all right, thank you, pal. We actually would like to lose this game. And I'm not saying Montgomery's bad, but it was odd. It was definitely odd that he just got phased out almost entirely. But the pass catching options. So we saw Pettis with the big game. And let's not compare Washington to New England. New England's 6th in pass defense DVOA this year. They do have a pretty solid secondary, kind of a run funnel team. But we're talking Darnell Mooney. Once you get behind him, though, once you get past Darnell Mooney, I should say, you're into Dante Pettis territory. And yes, Pettis had a solid game. Those will be few and far between. There's no denying that. Equanimous St. Brown, Smith Marset. Velus Jones is probably going to get 15 to 20% of snaps, maybe 17% of snaps last week was his highest of the year. He played 6 in week 5 and then 17 in week 6. That's who you're talking about. And then if you're talking tight end, sure, Cole Kmet's on the field for every single play, but that hasn't materialized into any actual production. And you're talking about like Wesco and then Ryan Griffin. Ryan Griffin has 4 targets on the year, and he's played 3 total snaps over the last 4 weeks.
You're absolutely right. It's hard because, one, you're dealing with a low volume offense, which just brings tons of volatility to begin with. And then you have all this talent volatility. Like if you told me Dante Pettis got benched today and played 4 snaps, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. But his alternatives are Equanimous St. Brown, who you could say the exact same thing about, and then Velus Jones and Amir Smith-Marset. Amir Smith-Marset's already been cut by teams. He's a returner. And then you have Velus Jones out there, costly mistakes returning the ball too. Like both Amir Smith-Marset and Velus Jones have been nothing but negative plays when they've been on the field. So
Jones muffed one that went for Washington's only touchdown, right? Last week.
Yep. And they had an open tryout at their punt returning spot this week.
Wow.
So, I mean, like they drafted Velus Jones highly. I think he gets another chance, but I mean, this guy sucks. He's a 25-year-old rookie. This is another thing, like the Bears front office, like what the hell are you doing drafting Velus Jones? And this is a couple of years after they drafted Riley Ridley on day 2 of the draft. Is Riley Ridley even played a snap for this team? He's not on the team anymore, but I mean,
I don't believe I've heard his name all year. I can tell you that much.
No, I'm just talking about like their draft. Like, what are you doing drafting these kind of players where you need to go out and sign like Dante Pettis and Equanimous St. Brown to be your starters? With that said, they both have 13 targets. Air yards is essentially the same. Only 20 separates these two guys on the year. I'm just going to pay down for Equanimous St. Brown if I have to pay one of them. We're talking about like essentially the same player volume wise. It's almost dead even in a low volume offense. And the problem is like, you're probably going to have to play some of these guys because as we'll get to, there's not really any value on this slate. So when you're talking about building middling constructions, like balanced constructions, the cheaper guys are Equinemius St. Brown, Dante Pettis, and some of these other players. Otherwise, you're really going to end up playing guys like Ryan Griffin, who you mentioned earlier. I think I'm going to play the guys on the field over that Ryan Griffin style build, which leads you to these really, really gross Bears receivers a lot of the time.
It's bad. And yeah, Smith Marset is on the Chiefs now. So there's that. Not that it matters too much.
Yeah, these guys are terrible.
Yeah, and yeah, you guys are right. Yeah, so Smith Marset on the Chiefs now. I guess the problem is it's twofold, right? And you just laid it out nicely. It's twofold. One, none of these guys are particularly good. Outside of Mooney, who is good, but he hasn't helped Justin Fields a whole lot either, if we're being completely honest, especially last game. But outside of that, none of these guys are particularly good. And then you're dealing with the fact that it's the lowest passing volume passing offense in the league. So it's not great players, Matt, combined with the fact that they throw at the lowest clip in football.
And Fields is minus 180 to throw an interception. That's like,
is he really minus 180? That's heavy juice on the yes, or
that's
the over
roughly
half
a 65% chance to throw a pick.
Usually,
like 17 attempts.
Even for Matt Ryan, through those weeks where it was like a lock that he threw a pick, it was like minus 120, minus 130 at spots. You know, that was Matt Ryan. Oof.
And he's atrocious, but throwing the ball 45 times. Justin Fields is atrocious and throwing it 17.
But that's another good point. Yeah, at least the volume's there for Matt Ryan to do it. You're minus 180 to throw a pick on one of your 20 attempts.
Man,
I don't know what to make of it.
They're making bad decisions too. Like the Bears coaching staff. It's like the Zeke Elliott situation where how can you defend not putting Tony Pollard on the field? How can you not put Khalil Herbert on the field at this point? David Montgomery is nothing special at all. He's a replacement level player. I don't think he would start for like 25 other teams in the NFL.
They're running the ball. They're
not bad at that, but that's because Khalil Herbert's been efficient. David Montgomery hasn't been.
Not at all. But it's amazing to me that a team this bad has a 41% pass play percentage. I'm not sure. You know, Atlanta's down there too, but at least Atlanta has been competent, right? They're 3-4. They haven't been. And I know that the Bears aren't far, but like the Falcons have played against some good teams really close, and they've won a lot of those games. All right, let me finish this with you then. What are we doing with the pass catchers? Who do you want to approach here? Let's look at our tools. The top plays tool we have updated. Positive leverage scores are going to Bears defense. The highest positive leverage. This is incredible for anyone on the Bears, any skill player on the Bears. I'm telling you, I think this is the first time I've seen it all season. Okay. Any skill player on the Bears, the highest leverage score or the best leverage score, 0.2 to Khalil Herbert.
It's a function of really low volume. Khalil Herbert is included in that because they insist on using David Montgomery. Again, I don't know why, but all the receivers are really low volume. So it's not like any of these guys even project relatively well, and you can use them as contrarian pivots off the Patriots receivers. They all have bad volume in a really low implied team total, and none of them are cheap. So, I mean, it's like I would rather just flat out play a kicker than these guys. And we're seeing that if we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but like Nick Folk has the third highest leverage score on the board. It's probably because he's 200 cheaper than Equinemius St. Brown with a pretty decent gap in their projection. But man, you're right. I mean, I'm trying to like rationalize this in my head. Everybody's going to be playing Patriots. Everyone's going to be playing 5-1s.
Yeah.
At what point are the Patriots overowned? And honestly, for guys like Jacoby Myers, it might be like 85%. Like Jacoby Myers is projected for a lot of ownership tonight, and he still has the highest positive leverage score. Again, this is getting ahead of ourselves, but I'm trying to talk about the slate contextually.
No, go for it. Go. This is helpful. We need to go there because if we're not putting it in context, we're not doing anyone any favors.
Yeah, my question to you is what's the point where the Bears become like good plays ownership wise, because they're not owned and they're still coming up as horrific plays.
Well, you know what? It is the NFL. We just saw the Bucks put 3 points up against the Panthers. We've seen really odd games. This isn't to say that the Bears are going to do that tonight under the bright lights of Monday Night Football, but it's not like New England's offense. It's not like they're world beaters either. Mac Jones is expected to come back today. Jacoby Myers is fine, but this isn't Tyreek Hill, Matt. It's still Jacoby Myers, right? I mean, that's the tough part for me. And Jalen Johnson's not a bad corner, right?
No, he's good. I like him.
He's good. He's their best option in the secondary. He's been healthy a week now. Maybe he makes life a little bit tougher for Myers. So let's get into that. First, though, we'll wrap up running back positions. Also, tomorrow's the last day to get the 10 for 10. You hear us referencing these tools, right? The ownership, the leverage scores, the top plays tool, top stack tool, all of that, the amazing boom bust tool, all the tools that we have, not just for football, but for any sport. $10 for 10 days. It's a single dollar a day to get access to every tool on our site that we have here. All of them built by Alex Baker, Awesemo himself, with an amazing team behind the scenes as well. Just all legitimate top DFS guys that every day are working on these tools. We have the NBA lineup generator, which is awesome now. Same with football. You can export to CSV your lineups up to 20 at a time. Then you can run it again. You can do it for cash tournament. You can do balance lineups, whatever you want. Brand new feature. It's awesome, especially for guys that might be playing, 20 max or 3 max and stuff like that. $10, 10 days. Hardwood is the promo. Just use the link though in the description. Mike just put it in there or in the chat. It's in both of those. It's up tomorrow. That's it. It's probably the best deal we're going to run all year, at least until New Year's, but that's a ways away. Right now you have basketball in full swing, football, baseball still. Now you got the World Series. There's going to be some big contests. You got hockey, MMA, PG, everything. All the sports, we got content. We got tools for all of them. You're not going to find a better deal than this. So you got one more day to make it happen. And if you don't like it, you're out $10. But my guess is that you will. And at least with this $10, you're giving yourself an opportunity to make a good chunk of money off of it on top of that. So check it out. Hardwood, links in the description and in the chat. Running backs here. Montgomery has the lowest leverage score on the entire slate, Matt.
He does. That's price driven. It's the only thing I can rationalize this.
Yeah.
Going into this slate this morning, when I was thinking about what Bears I want to play, because you have to play some mathematically the way that the sites are laid out. You can't play 6 Patriots. You can't play 5 Patriots on FanDuel. Think of the run game. And I mean, I feel like that's a natural thing to do. David Montgomery has good volume. The Bears have actually been fairly efficient running the ball. They haven't been terrible, which is saying a lot. And Montgomery has a good workload. Then you see his price. He's 10.6K. He's more expensive than quarterbacks on this slate. The only person that's ahead of him in price is Ramondre Stevenson. Seeing him as the second most expensive play was a little eye-opening. And you look at his workload, even last week, Khalil Herbert still had 7 carries. So he's not uninvolved in the run game, but it is still skewed heavily towards Montgomery. That's honestly kind of led me to Khalil Herbert for 2 reasons. One, Khalil Herbert's not like Jalen Warren, where he's getting 2 carries, then he's off the field. He had 7 last week, and he's been awesome with them. So there's still a little bit of room here for this to expand and maybe go to a 50-50 committee. The Bears haven't shown enough intelligence to do that in the past, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. And then pricing, without any guys near the min, playing Khalil Herbert at 5.4K could make some sense, especially when right now it looks like the people that are using Bears are going to use defenses and kickers. I'm expecting a lot of 5-1 builds with like Cairo Santos as the lone bear. Just going up to Khalil Herbert might be enough leverage for you here. And then looking at our tools, not a lot of positive leverage, but with Khalil Herbert, it's not negative either, which is, I guess, something good to say.
I love Khalil Herbert today. And it's not that I expect him to come out with a 30 fantasy point game, but of all of the players And you just contextualized it nicely. But of all of the players on this team right now, they all have so many things that I don't like. And Herbert, at the same time, is one of those guys that probably isn't getting the volume that he should. But at least he's going to touch the ball. He's going to get some opportunities. We know that he has big playability. Like, you look at this too, Matt. He has a 52-yard run this year. He has a 63. He has many, 20-plus yard runs. He is explosive, and he's not expensive at all. So if they find themselves in a situation where they're playing from behind, or even a neutral game script potentially, maybe you find ways to get Herbert the ball more than you have in these past couple of weeks. To me, it's really just, it's a product of this slate, of this game. That's all it is with Khalil Herbert. The price is reasonable, and not to mention David Montgomery gets banged up quite a bit anyway. David Montgomery's price just kind of seems insane.
I think you could play David Montgomery still, and
you have to.
Let's contextualize. Yeah, for sure. But you have to play a bear. You absolutely have to play a bear. So in a vacuum, let's say price didn't matter, Montgomery would be the one guy you want to play. I think you can still build lineups where maybe you just exclude Jacoby Myers and you're playing Nelson Aguilar, you're playing these ancillary Jonnu Smith, these ancillary New England pass catchers, hoping one of them falls in the end zone. And then you're just, all right, I want the bear with the most touches. I want the bear that's going to get the most raw points. And then maybe the touchdowns just don't go to the expensive New England pass catchers and runners. That's a build I like, and I'll probably play a little bit, knowing that it's negatively leveraged. But at some point, like, who's just the raw highest scoring bear? Because I think New England could spread it around a little bit.
I mean, the Patriots defense is more expensive than Khalil Herbert, and they're getting
wild.
I know they're getting over twice the captain ownership, or twice. Sorry, they're getting 2 times the captain ownership. They're getting 25% utility ownership. I'm not even necessarily saying that's wrong, but the Bears could be bad and score only 7 points or 10 points, and Patriots defense could still be in a letdown spot because you still need the fumble recovery or the interception return touchdowns. You still need a lot of sacks. You still need the turnovers. It's very possible that they can limit the Bears to very few points and still only have like 6 fantasy points. We see it all the time with defense.
Yeah, that was my first thought too. And then I looked at Justin Fields and I saw him take 5 sacks last week. And
I know, I get it.
Then I saw his interception line at minus 180. I'm like, holy smokes.
But it is reflected in the ownership for the Patriots is what I'm saying. Big time.
For sure. Honestly, I've been losing a lot of money on showdowns after fading some of these defenses in these ugly spots, because we know sometimes ugly games can go one of 2 ways. Maybe it's the defense that looks ugly and you get like a Jets Jaguars type shootout that's 40-35. Or what we've been getting a lot this year, you get Denver playing like, I don't know, Seattle in a primetime slate and the score 7-3 or something. And it's the offenses that are ugly. It could go either way here. The way I've been approaching this season is to try to just fade the public perception. And with the Patriots defense coming in so owned, sure, there are paths to a ceiling. We just mentioned the betting line on Fields, the sacks he's taken. But it's also a really run-heavy offense, too. And generally speaking, that's not great for opposing defenses. You're limiting turnover opportunities, which are your moneymakers for DFS and fantasy. If Fields drops back 15 to 20 times, the chances of him throwing an interception are not likely, even if his betting line is minus 180. So I think there's ways to fade the Patriots, maybe play the kickers instead, maybe play the Bears defense, or what I think I'm going to end up doing right now if all this holds is playing guys like Khalil Herbert.
Yeah, I see it. Kevin with a good question. Would salary matter then? If you're just looking for the highest scoring bear, then you're also probably getting lower ownership and more unique, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, Montgomery's salary is pretty egregious, but at the same time, yeah, it might not really matter. It's just interesting that we have him with such a low leverage score. I mean, we only have him as we have him with a 5% top play probability. That does seem low, if I'm being completely honest. I think there's iterations of this game where he could definitely be the top scorer, but like Matt said, you need to score early, and then it just needs to be a neutral. It needs to be a neutral game script. This Chicago team, it's not that they won't throw to Montgomery at times if they're playing from behind. my issue, Matt, is if this Chicago team falls behind, they become even more inept offensively, and they just can't move the football at all. And then it's just 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, because this team doesn't know how to play from behind, or they don't have the personnel.
Right. And I would rather play Herbert than Montgomery in a vacuum. It might come down to the highest scoring bear, but it also might be price adjusted. So we laid out a situation where it's essentially just like, all right, it's not Ramondre or Jacoby Myers leading the Patriots, but what if it is one of them? And then you just need the highest price adjusted bear in terms of scoring. That could be Herbert. Again, Montgomery only outcarried him 15-7 against the Commanders. So it's not like Montgomery's running away with the backfield. He's certainly in a lead, but Herbert with that kind of opportunity still could pay off price adjusted. So I think I'm going to do some of both, playing multiple lineups, but if I had to do just one, for me, picking a bear would probably be Herbert, and then going to the Myers and some of these other guys who we'll get to. Myers looks like an awesome play.
He does. And Bears defense. Bears defense is fine. This could be a very low scoring game. Wouldn't shock me. They are getting ownership though. Ryan with the super chat, he said, love duo. Maybe love the duo? Or love, I don't know. But just bet Seattle at 6-1 to win the West. Do you like it? Thank you for the super chat, Ryan. No, I don't. I'll be completely honest with you. Very impressed with Seattle right now. I am impressed with them, but I still think the Niners are a better team. I still think the Rams I still think the Niners are a better team. I'll say that.
I think the Niners are a better team, but that's kind of priced in at plus 600. You know, like
yeah,
Seattle's not the favorite. I think the Cardinals suck.
Yeah, that's not happening. But it's still like you still have tough divisional games, even though this division hasn't been good. You know, I don't know. I'm looking at the schedule now, though. I mean, they got the Bucks coming up. Before the season started, I would have said that's tough. Rams, Panthers, Niners. They do have the Chiefs.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say about the schedule is they have a last place schedule in the division. So the Rams are playing a first place schedule. Like when you're breaking ties here, one, I think the Cardinals suck. Two, the Rams are playing a first place schedule. So they're going to get basically cannibalized, like because of these really hard back and forth games. Seattle's getting the worst team from all of their non-divisional opponents, really. And their non-like crossovers.
Yeah.
Their one-offs are all the worst teams in their respective divisions.
It's true. Yeah. Like Rams got the Bills. Seahawks got the Jets.
Yeah, so it's winnable. Again, I think it's an outside chance, but still, that's probably reflected in the plus 600. I'll say I don't hate it. I don't think it's the most likely. I'm with you. I think the 49ers win it if I were placing money on it, but I don't hate it.
6-1, it could be worse. Yeah. All right. You want to talk anything else for the Bears?
I don't think so. Cole Kmet if you want, but I'd rather just play Equanimous if you're going to play a pass catcher.
All right. Hey, and by the way, shout out to our sponsor, Prize Picks. This is, you want to talk about the best promo you get. Well, 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum when you sign up over there, plus up to $100 first match deposit bonus. It's insane. It's $120 value just alone on the month of Stokastic Plus. Everything on our site. Not Fantasy Cruncher because we don't own that, but you already knew that. All you do, use the link in the description, the one in the chat. You sign up. That's it. You use that link. Sign up and deposit for the first time. Get your deposit bonus. Get the match. Get the free month of Stokastic Plus. Not just football. Every single sport. And win some money at Prize Picks. It's a sick format. You're just taking, 2 through 5 props. There's no juice on either side. Just over or under. You're building lineups, unlike a traditional parlay too, where if you only hit 4 or 5, you don't make anything. You still 2x if you hit a 4 or 5 at Prize Picks. You still get money back if you're hitting 3 or 5. And if you're not in a, if you're in non-legal betting states, this is the place to do it for sure. You can do multiple sports. Like if you're Matt, you do college, you could do NFL, you could do MMA, all in the same lineup, and you're getting a free month of Stokastic. So it is a lovely deal. And if you have already taken advantage of it, I'm sure you're enjoying it. I'm sure you're enjoying the free month. If you have not taken advantage of it yet, get that free month. Get that free month. Prize Picks, sponsor of the Strategy Show. Oh, and if you are in legal betting states, I think there's only probably a week left on this. BetMGM's giving you $200 for free. $10, you deposit, use the link, again, in the description, in the chat. Put that $10 when you sign up on any NHL money line pregame. You don't have to like hockey. We like free money. Put it on any NHL money line to win. And if they win or if they lose, you get it anyway. If they win, you get your payout and the $200. If they lose, You still get the $200. Worst case scenario, you go on a terrible losing streak after you get that 200, you lose it all, you're down $10. Your downside here is literally $10. Your upside is whatever you make it. You could go on a mega heater and turn it into 4 or 5 figures. All you had to do to get that bankroll was deposit $10 on a new book. Plus, being able to shop odds is huge. So a lot of opportunities to get free money, whether it's at Prize Picks, getting the free sub, getting the first match deposit bonus, whether it's at BetMGM, getting the $200. Take advantage of it. BetMGM's not in PA, New York, or Mississippi for this promo, but everywhere else. Get in on that, man. Take advantage. These promos will not be around forever. Free money's hard to come by, so snatch it up when it's there. All right, Matt, New England. This will be a little bit easier for us to talk through because I think it's somewhat clear cut. Let's start with the backfield between Stevenson and Harris. You told me before the show you think we could be looking at another 50-50 down the middle split.
If I were to project this, and it appears our tools are viewing it similarly, it would be like a 55-45 split, 60-40 split, maybe just flat out 50-50 between Ramondre and Damian Harris. We have Ramondre is slightly ahead of that. I think it makes sense. You've got Harris coming off an injury. Ramondre has been awesome, so maybe he just works slightly ahead of Harris. But ultimately, I think our tools have it correct. And we've got Ramondre slightly negatively leveraged. I think that's more of a price thing because, again, we don't have any good value. If you play Ramondre, you're locking yourself into like a Khalil Herbert or an Equinemi St. Brown or kicker or defense. It's not terrible, and he's not like significantly negatively leveraged. But if you play a guy like Damian Harris, I think you're just locking yourself into a build you'll feel better about. Like you'll probably end up with more guys in the range of Devontae Parker, Jacoby Myers, like actual competent pass catchers, unlike on the Bears side. So I like the Damian Harris build a little bit more, but I think you could build lineups with one or the other. I think you could honestly use both in certain Millie Maker style constructions. I love the backs here.
Me too. Me too. I mean, is that Kalonji? Kalonji, he said Stevenson owns the backfield now. Don't fall for it. How about this? Don't fall for thinking Bill Belichick is ever going to do something that you can predict. How about that?
Yeah, and if you think that, build like it, like use Ramondre,
Sure.
use him in the captain. You can benefit from that because that is not the prevailing sentiment in the industry. But if you're correct on that, you could have a huge payoff.
If you think Stevenson is the guy, you're captaining him a ton. Like if I think Stevenson is the clear guy, 70% of carries on the day as an 8.5-point favorite, Matt, I don't care that he's 14.6% in the captain spot. I'll double the field on that in the captain spot, because if this were just a Stevenson game and Harris was still out, Ramondre Stevenson would be in the top play percentage on Stevenson today is already the highest on the slate. It would probably be like 40%.
Yeah, I have nothing else to add. I 100% agree.
Do you? And yeah, Steven said in DFS you can tell a story on that, but as a football thought, I can't assume it. Right, and Matt, that's what Matt said. If that is the way you think this goes, then you're definitely building around that, which makes Showdown slates very interesting, very, very interesting. All right, but yeah, I like them both. And then there was a question too that we had. It was Pot Farmer. What's up, man? He said, double Patriot running backs is totally viable tonight, correct? Yes, very viable.
Agreed. I think it'll be under-owned.
Do you?
Yeah, because of price.
Okay.
Not because like people don't like the Patriots backs, but you're locking up almost 20,000 of the salary in one of the backs. And if you're using one in the captain, you're over that.
I think what will be even more under-owned is double Patriot running backs, but with Harris in the captain spot and Stevenson in the utility.
I agree with that as well.
Right? Because I think you'll see a decent amount of Stevenson captain, Harris utility, and I like that. But I like the idea of getting some Harris because he was getting a lot of goal line opportunities before he got hurt.
Yeah, I think they're both good players. Me
too. This is a good backfield for sure. And with Mac Jones expected to return, I don't know. They shouldn't need to throw all that much, but let's dive into the passing game. Cause like I said, the backfield's kind of easy to break down. It's more so just how do we want to use these guys? Not if we want to use these guys, but in the passing game, you have Jones expected to play. Then you got guys like Myers, Parker, And then it looks as though Bourne is unlikely to play, and Nelson Aguilar seems like a true game time decision. But even if both of them sit, guys like Taquan Thornton are not cheap either, Matt.
No, they did a good job pricing up the backups in this case, because last thing we'd want is like, maybe not last thing, maybe it'd open things up, but I personally wouldn't want Nelson Aguilar out of this game and have 200 Taquan Thornton or something like that, where he's going to be like 95% owned. I like this scenario a little bit better, where he's a little bit priced up. I think it's a pretty easy evaluation, though. You've got Jacoby Myers. He should be the number 1 on paper. Devontae Parker should be the number 2. I think they're both appropriately priced for this matchup, even though it might be low volume. You're just dealing with less desirable alternatives on the Bears side. And then the wide receiver 3, I think it's Aguilar if he plays. And if he doesn't, I think it's Taquan. And maybe it's a rotation to some degree, but our tools are going to change a little bit depending on who's active in that instance. But I have no problem getting to Nelson Aguilar. I have no problem getting to Taquan Thornton. And honestly, it could be a flat out split. Taquan's played well going back even to the preseason. He's an absolute burner coming out of Baylor. I believe he ran the fastest 40-yard dash of all receivers in the combine this year.
We had a comment from John that says there'll be less run heavy with Max. Well, I think he means Mac back though. So volume shouldn't be down on both. I don't know why they would be more pass heavy with Jones back. Zappy was no worse than Mac Jones.
Yeah, I'm not really expecting too much to change for the Patriots. I don't think it's going to be drastically one way or the other.
I don't expect it to change much at all. They're 8.5-point favorites too. I mean, this is a team that wants to run as much as they can. We saw it last year. If they get a lead, they want to run as much as I can. We'll see though. Again, if that's what you think is going to happen, then you should be, playing a lot of Myers captain or Mac Jones a captain. I don't see it that way. I think the path to success here is just control time of possession and run the ball down the Bears' throats, which has been successful for teams throughout the season already, but we've seen crazier things happen. Hey, what do you want to do with the tight end? This is actually an interesting spot to me because at least, and look, it's nothing to get excited about, understandably so, right? But we got to talk about everybody. At least you have Jonnu Smith, who once in a while might see an opportunity in the end zone. And there just aren't a lot of cheap options today at all. So there's Jonnu Smith and there's Hunter Henry. Neither of these guys having big years, but we got to talk about both of them.
Yeah, they typically start and run a decent amount of 12 personnel. Concerningly, John, who's been just blocking his ass off. They're not really using him as a pass catcher at all. 6 routes in their last game. He played 30 snaps. That's a ton of blocking for John. Yeah. To your point, though, he's out there, and that's not what he's done in the past, at least all the time. So you could see him walk his way into a score, something like that. Hunter Henry's played well ahead of him in terms of pass catching, and he's another one of those guys to kind of throw into the conversation with Jacoby Myers, with Devontae Parker. I don't mind him whatsoever. So he'll be a guy I certainly mix into the game, into my lineups. And then I'll probably end up playing a little bit of Jonnu just because he's at a price point, which makes things work a little bit more than some other guys. But ultimately, I would rather play Hunter Henry just in a vacuum, one lineup. Henry, I think, actually looks really good.
Yeah, I get it. It is interesting though, when I'm looking at Jonnu Smith, there again, nothing exciting about him. And there's really no reason to, like, on a main slate, we don't even mention his name. Okay. But he's ran 53 routes. He's been targeted on 13 of them. So at least, that's 22% of the routes run. So at least if he does say run 10 routes, you could be looking at 2-3 targets there. And that's as much as you can ask for. He has 4-3, 4 and 2 targets, and then a 0 target game. I'm with you that I prefer Henry here. No question. But if Smith ended up with like 2 for 25 and a touchdown, it wouldn't shock me at all if he ended up, being necessary just because he's so cheap.
Yeah, I agree with that. Don't hate it at all. He'll be the preferred really cheap guy I get to.
Any other real cheap guys to mention here? And then you can close it out with, like, we already talked kickers and defense, but we'll build a lineup when you're done.
Not really. We said the name Ryan Griffin. He's not expensive, or he's not seeing the ball enough for me to get there. Velus Jones will play a little bit. We talked about him as well. The Patriots really don't have anybody that fits this mold.
No, that's the only reason I talked about Jenny Smith, because there isn't anyone else.
Yeah, they're flat out isn't anybody on the Patriots that's going to play at these prices.
And they priced Thornton up. So
yeah, so their wide receiver 4 is priced at 6.6K, and if there's an injury, they'll just go to double tight end.
Yep. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it makes it tough. It'll be interesting to see if we get some updates once if Bourne is ruled out, and we will get updates, of course. Like I said, 10 days for $10, hardwood, all caps, all one word. Just use the link in the description in the chat if you want to get in on that. Tomorrow's the last day. So if you're wondering what tools we're referencing, this is the top plays tool for Showdown and single game slates and the top stacks and all of that stuff. But let's build a lineup, pull the lineup builder up as well, Mike, and let's see what we can do here. Matt, what do you want to do? Large field? You want to do some mid stakes tournament, like the $50, 60K prize pool? What are you thinking?
I like the one we've been doing. I can't remember the dollar amount on it.
50.
Was it $50 single entry with like 50K entries or something?
Yeah, it was not 50K entries, $50,000 prize pool though.
How many entries was it? Do you remember?
It's several thousand here. I can tell you.
Okay, so we don't have to do it specifically, just giving people an idea. Even if it was like 20K or less, I think that's something we could build for.
It's 50,000. Yeah, it's 1,100 entries, but still it's a $50,000 prize pool. So it's not a bad contest at all.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Because not everybody's maxing the milli, not everybody in here is maxing out the milli. I think it's interesting. Sometimes we do things a little different. This will apply to like the $15 single entry as well. So, all right, you can go first. Captain spot. What do you want to do?
Let's do Damian Harris.
I love it. That's where I was going to go as well.
Nice.
All right. You're going Harris. I'm going to go Stevenson next.
Ooh.
Yeah. I don't think it needs to be a large field to do double running back at all. If both of these guys score, they don't need huge games to get you there. And I think it's entirely possible. Remember, the Patriots have a 24.5 point total in this game.
Yeah, they do. They're going to score points. Maybe not like 45, but certainly more than the Bears, and usable for these backs, usable enough for both of them. You could honestly see a touchdown or multiple for one or the other. Sometimes both if this game plays out a certain way. From here, I think I'm going to start opening up some salary for us. And let's play Hunter Henry at his price. 5K, I think, is very generous for him. He's only 200 more than Cole Kmet.
Okay. I'm sorry. Who'd you go to?
Hunter Henry.
Henry. All right. I like it. And yeah, maybe I said the milli, but I meant 500K. You guys know what I mean. It's been the milli all year long. Now the basketball started at 500K. You know what I meant. All right. Matt, I'm going Khalil Herbert here.
We have a lot of salary now. My question to you is, do we go with like a Mac Jones or something? Just take the raw highest projected guy, because we can definitely be creative with the last guy with salary. I'm not worried about leaving any on the board in this build.
I suppose we could. You'd like to see Stevenson get a little passing work there. You'd need a Hunter Henry touchdown, right?
Yeah. Or I think you could play a pass catcher of some sort. I do like Mac Jones though.
You want to go double Bears running back too? No, we don't.
We could do. I don't hate that either. This would be pretty underowned though, but you could still build with double Bears back.
I actually don't think it's the most insane notion at all. A milli lineup, the 500K lineup, this could be interesting too.
For sure.
Let's just see what happens if we go double Bears back, double New England back.
Okay.
5,600. That's enough to get Patriots defense as well. I'll tell you what, this lineup, even though you have some chalky players, I don't think this lineup is going to be chalky. I don't mind maxing the salary out.
Neither do I. And if you're playing the milli or the 500K, and you're worried about it, instead of playing the Patriots defense, just play kicker and leave 1K on the board or 1.3K, whatever it is.
Absolutely. Cool. I love it.
Kickers for AB.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Hey, appreciate you guys watching. As always, follow Matt at Matt_Gajewski, me at Lafayette_D. And remember, you don't have to remember anything because it's coming up in 2 minutes. You got the NBA strategy show right now. Who's on it? Josh and Adam. All right, they got you. Going up to 11. You got that. Then you got the NHL strategy show at 2. A ton of stuff going on today. NFL, NBA, deeper dives, live before lock. All of that great stuff tonight right here on the channel. We'll catch you back here for the next one. Peace.